You're watching KCAL 9 News at noon.
A smile, a handshake. What does your body language really say about you, and how can you change it to make some good impressions?
Do you notice as soon as we start introducing our guests, we're both sitting up a little bit more?
Smiling.
We have an expert this morning in studio this afternoon who has written a book on all of this, Dr. Kinsey Goman, here to show us what you're calling the silent language. And what does that tell you about it? Look at your perfect posture.
Absolutely.
How are we doing?
Well, no, you're doing great. You're doing great.
That's why you're here to help, right?
That's right. And the first tip, there's several very powerful, very simple things that you can do. You have to stand up, though, for this.
Okay.
If you're at all hesitant or tentative and you want to appear more confident, this is research done at Columbia and Harvard Business Schools, by the way, you either take one of those Superman, well, look at you, this is supermodel. You have to have your feet wide apart, your hands on your hips or your hands straight out, and you hold that pose for 2 minutes. And if you do that, the testosterone level in men and women increases, you're more likely to take risks, you feel more confident, and the cortisol level, your stress level, goes down. And when you enter the room, people actually perceive you as more confident.
Well,
They
wait a
can
second.
feel that, huh?
But do you walk in like this, do you mean?
Well,
or have you
not
put your
unless
hands
you,
down?
you want to, no, you hold this pose, 2 minutes.
And then you walk
And
in.
that gets things going, huh?
Yeah, that changes your blood chemistry, and then you walk into the room and you actually walk taller and you look more confident.
And you also talk about looking like you're listening. What does that mean?
Well, you know, when people are talking...
Please sit down, I'm exhausted.
But my 2 minutes aren't up yet.
She's still being Wonder Woman there. If it's a child or a coworker and you want them to continue talking, what you want to do is not multitask. You don't want to check your watch or your iPad or
Your
the
phone.
room or whatever else. That is, you want to square your shoulders to the person, lean in slightly, nod like you're doing. See, good interviewers do this all the time. Nod, tilt your head a little bit, and give them your full attention. It's great to listen. You can actually listen like this, but it doesn't look like you're listening.
And that's why I think it makes conversations with some people a lot more interesting than with other people. You can feel that when somebody's really tuned into you.
Yes, yes, and that becomes, you know, they're called great communicators, and all they've done is really listen to you. They haven't said a word.
And removing barriers, an important thing to do.
Yeah, particularly in a meeting. I do a lot of work with executives and managers, and when you can tell people when they are very kind of afraid or off-put, they will stack their computer in front, their purse, they will do whatever it is to wall themselves off from the rest of the group. And so if you want a collaborative meeting, if you want to encourage people, take away those barriers. I even had one executive say, I can tell how comfortable my team is with each other by how high they hold their coffee cups at break. If they're not comfortable, they're way high. If they're comfortable, they relax.
Interesting. So both sides can use it. Management can use it as a tool to see how everybody's doing, or whoever wants to be the power player. And the other person also can use it as a way to interpret what's going on.
That's right. You can get a lot out of a meeting by noticing what people are doing with their bodies.
I notice, Carol, you do a lot with your hands.
Yeah.
And I guess that's a good thing. It helps people interpret what you're saying.
Well, it's an Italian thing, too. It's my quarter Italian. But yeah, actually in your brain when you speak, there's a certain region of your brain that's activated. Same region is activated when you gesture. So this connection means if you gesture when you speak, it actually improves your ability to speak.
And smile.
Yeah, smile is one of the easiest things to do if it's genuine, and it is the most powerful. It actually changes another person's brain. Just by putting your face in that smiling position, you feel better. People mimic that smile, and then they feel better. And there was research done with Olympic athletes, Russian weightlifters. And if they smiled when they went to do a lift, they could actually lift more weight.
Oh, I thought that was just a grimace of lifting 400 pounds or something.
It would be with me, but I guess if you're a pro, you learn how to do that.
They can smile and therefore can lift more weight.
Yeah, so if you're going to do anything that you figure is difficult, smile when you do it, and it'll feel a little easier.
We talked about talking with your hands, but you say it's also important to look at people's feet. What's that all about?
Well, if you want to learn the truth, watch their feet. Feet are the farthest from the brain, and they're the least rehearsed part of the body. So if someone's nervous, they may wrap their feet around their, you know, the legs of their chair. They may have their feet fidget, or they may cross and recross. They'll also tend to point at the person or the people that they prefer, and when it's time to go, their feet will start pointing at the door. They may stay talking to you, but if they really need to go and you look down, their feet are going to be looking at the exit.
Really?
Yeah.
By the way, subconsciously, I have to ask you, while she's been speaking, have you been like adjusting things? Like I'm saying to myself, okay, I'm tapping my foot,
yeah, I feel like
which is
she's
not
studying.
impatience, but it's like, yeah, I'm afraid that she's looking at us and making judgments.
People just hate me when I come into a room.
No,
It's like,
not at all.
no. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, you do get more nervous because it's like, what do I do with my hands when I speak? Well, what do you do with your hands anyway? You know, it's only when you become really self-conscious about that that you lose your natural rhythm and your natural ability to be non-verbally expressive.
Interesting, interesting.
What about our voice? How can we use that to communicate better?
Well, particularly before an important phone call or say you're going to go on stage for a speech. If you do this, you will pull your voice down into its optimal range. And particularly if you're a woman, do that so your voice doesn't start out too high. And remember when you're speaking, particularly as a female, that you end with that authoritative arc, that your voice starts at one pitch, it raises, and then it goes down. And it doesn't end on that kind of Valley Girl, what? You know, and that kind of upswing.
We hear that so often.
Yes.
And that's a gender-specific issue.
It
Women
is.
especially.
Yes, women especially.
Interesting. Well, we want to talk a little bit more with one last thing because we've saved the best for last. It's uncross your hands and legs. Now, I noticed that you've got your hands crossed. I do. Sandra does. You two have your legs crossed.
Okay, done.
Are we doing something wrong?
This is what we're talking about, the arms and legs.
Oh, okay.
When you are in an audience and you sit like this, what happens to your brain must be something magical because you actually turn off some of your retention ability. You retain 38% less than if you sat like this and listened to the speaker or the CEO or whomever it is that's giving a presentation.
Why
All of this,
is that?
It seems backed up by studies.
Yes, the lovely thing about body language right now is the functional MRI machine that came in and it looks at brains and it knows that when you smile at me, a genuine smile, you change my brain chemistry. It's if you've given me a reward. And we can prove it now with science.
And you have written a book on this.
I have written several books, but my latest book is The Silent Language of Leaders.
So if we want to portray ourselves as a leader, when we enter a room, what should we be looking like?
Well, you want to remember how your body felt in those power poses when you were very expansive. Status and confidence is displayed in height and space. So you notice that high status people kind of spread out their things. Women and lower status employees, we tend to condense. We pull our arms into our bodies, our papers in a nice little stack. Spread things out. Take up a little more space. Sit up straight. Walk into a room as if you own the place. And people will think you do.
Dr. Kinsey Goman, thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
It's my pleasure.